Welcome to Forbidden Love, Atlanta, a story of ambition, heartbreak, and the fire that never dies. If you love cinematic storytelling and motion comic drama, hit like, share, and subscribe to join the journey. Dominique returns to Atlanta after 2 years abroad. The city hums with promise and regret. Her car glides past the skyline, every light a memory she's not ready to face. Inside the Hartwell Hotel Gala, laughter and music blur. Across the bar, Marcus leans casually, his gaze locking with hers. 2 years of silence collapse into one electric glance. Dominique steps into the night air. The city glows below, and the wind carries everything unsaid. Her clutch trembles, the weight of memory pressing against her chest. She moves across the ballroom floor, her gown catching the chandelier light. Marcus watches from the shadows, stillness against her motion, reverence against her grace. They meet halfway down the corridor. 30 seconds of silence. 30 seconds of truth. The world narrows to the space between them. Dominique sits in the car, city lights streaking across the window. Marcus stands outside, his hand on the door, torn between leaving and staying. The night ends, but the story begins. This is just the beginning. The lights of Buckhead, to Gold Thread Studios and the outline pulse below like a living thing. The sky burns amber and violet at the horizon. The city hums. They will tell you Atlanta is a city of the South. They're not wrong. But that description doesn't begin to touch what this place actually is, what it does to you. Atlanta is not simply a city. It is a feeling. It is the particular electricity of a place that has reinvented itself so many times it has learned to wear ambition like a second skin. You can feel it in the skyline at dusk, when the glass towers catch the dying light and hold it just long enough to make you believe something eternal is possible here. Something worth having. Something worth surviving. Atlanta is magnolias and Mercedes. Sweet tea and seven-figure deals. It is church on Sunday and everything unholy on Saturday night. It is a city dressed in southern charm, gracious, warm, honeyed at the edges, that will look you in the eye and smile while it rearranges every plan you ever made for your life. The people who come here chase power. They chase legacy. They chase the version of themselves that finally feels worthy of what they want. And somewhere in that chase, between the ambition and the arrival, between who they were and who they are becoming, they fall in love. Dangerously. Completely. Without the good sense God gave them to stop. Because in a city this beautiful, love is never simple. It is never clean. It does not arrive on schedule, and it does not leave when you ask it to. It wraps itself around the things you have built, and it waits. Patient as the Georgia heat. Inevitable as the summer storm. This is Atlanta. And this is what it does to hearts that were never meant to be broken, and were anyway. An upscale midtown apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Dominique, 32, stands before a floor-length mirror, fastening the clasp of a diamond earring. She is immaculate. Composed. A woman who has rehearsed calm into her bones. On the vanity sea, a framed photograph, face down. She does not look at it. She looks only at herself. Dominique Carter did not get to where she is by accident. Let that be said plainly, and let it be said first, because she has earned every single syllable of her story. At 32, she is a partner at one of the most sought-after PR firms in the Southeast. She has managed crises that would have dismantled lesser people, held the hands of clients through scandals and second chances, and walked out of every single battle looking like she had never been touched by it. Her composure is not a quality. It is a construction. Deliberate. Studied. Armored. She built her life the way a certain kind of woman builds it after a certain kind of hurt, methodically, from the rubble outward, placing each brick of her routine and her ambition and her solitude with precision, until what stood in the place of the wreckage was something no one could question. Something that looked, From the outside, exactly like wholeness. She does not look at the photograph on the vanity. She hasn't looked at it in months. She has told herself it doesn't matter. That he doesn't matter. That 2 years is a long time, and a long time is long enough. But this morning, when the guest list arrived in her inbox for the Hartwell Foundation Gala, her gala, the one she organized, the one she cannot not attend, there was a name on it that stopped her hand above the keyboard. A name that did not belong in her carefully ordered present. A name that belonged to a past she had been professionally, almost impressively, pretending was finished. Marcus Ellison. She refastens the earring, straightens her gown, lifts her chin. And somewhere beneath that composure, in the place where armor cannot reach, something she thought she had sealed shut cracks open, just a sliver. Just enough. A luxury high-rise office, 30th floor, downtown Atlanta. Marcus Ellison, 35, stands at a floor-to-ceiling window, the city spread out beneath him like something he was born to survey. His phone is in his hand. He is looking at a message. He has not replied. He has been standing there for 4 minutes. Marcus Ellison is the kind of man that cities produce when they are trying to make a point. He is the youngest Black CEO in the history of Ellison Capital Group, a real estate and investment firm his grandfather seeded and his father grew, and that Marcus transformed, quietly, relentlessly, into something the industry is still trying to fully comprehend. He does not chase recognition. Recognition simply catches up to him eventually and stands at a respectful distance. He built his world on discipline, on the fundamental belief that emotion is information, useful when managed, catastrophic when indulged. He runs his boardrooms with clarity and his personal life with the same calibrated control. He does not leave things unfinished. He does not revisit decisions. He does not linger. Except once. There was once. And her name is still in his phone under a contact he has never deleted and never opened. Not once. Not in 2 years. There is a particular taxonomy of love that most people only encounter once in their lives, the kind that doesn't operate by the rules, the kind that doesn't respond to logic or leverage, the kind that becomes the invisible standard against which every person who comes after is measured, quietly, without cruelty, but also without mercy. That kind of love doesn't announce itself as the measuring stick. You only realize it is one when everyone else keeps falling short. Marcus Ellison is a man who once let himself love without a strategy, without a contingency plan, without the emotional armor that discipline had spent years perfecting, and he paid for it in the currency that costs the most, vulnerability. Offered fully, received incompletely, and ultimately, however it happened, however complicated the truth of it was, lost. He puts the phone in his jacket pocket without replying. He picks up his cufflinks from the desk. Tonight, he has a gala to attend. He is not thinking about Dominique Carter. He is not thinking about Dominique Carter at all. The grand ballroom of the Hartwell Hotel, Buckhead. Crystal chandeliers pour warm light over a room full of Atlanta's most polished. Designer gowns. Tailored tuxedos. A string quartet playing something elegant in the corner. Waiters move like ghosts between guests. Dominique enters from the east entrance. 3 minutes later, Marcus enters from the west. Neither knows the other has arrived yet. The room holds them both, and the clock starts ticking. There are 412 people in this room tonight. 412 heartbeats, 412 lives in their own full complexity, their own ambitions and grief and quiet longings. None of that matters right now. What matters right now is physics. The particular, undeniable physics of two people who once occupied the same emotional universe being placed, by design or by fate or by the particular cruelty of a city that never forgets, back into the same room. You cannot explain this in language that doesn't sound like poetry, and that is because it is. It is the oldest kind. the kind that predates metaphor. She takes a glass from a passing tray and surveys the room with professional precision. She is the architect of this evening. She knows every face here, every table arrangement, every carefully curated detail. And she knows, with the certainty of someone who has memorized the guest list 4 times in the last 8 hours, that he is here, somewhere in this room, that he is already breathing the same air. Across the room, Marcus accepts a handshake, says something that makes a senator laugh, and keeps moving. He is good at this. He has always been good at this, the performance of ease in rooms that require it. But tonight there is something underneath the ease. A low-frequency hum. An awareness he cannot quite name, gathering at the edges of his attention like weather. A room full of hundreds. And somehow, impossibly, inevitably, it already feels like it only holds 2. The bar along the east wall of the ballroom. The crowd is thicker here, voices warmer. Dominique reaches through a small gap in the crowd to take a champagne flute from the bar. She wraps her fingers around the stem. She looks up. Marcus is already there, one hand on the bar top, looking at her. Neither of them moves for a second that lasts considerably longer than a second. There are volumes written about the danger of reunions, about the mistake of going back, about the way the past reconstructs itself, in the presence of someone significant, into something that looks suspiciously like hope. None of those volumes cover adequately the specific, devastating danger of first words. Not first words between strangers. Those carry only the weight of possibility, light and provisional. But first words after a long silence between 2 people who once said everything, those carry something else entirely. They carry the freight of every conversation that was never had, every unsent message, every 2 a.m. thought that was swallowed before it could become a sentence, every time one of them started to reach out and stopped. 2 years of silence, and now this. A bar in Buckhead. A champagne flute. His eyes in hers, and the question of who will speak first and what in God's name they will say. He says her name. Just that. Just her name. The way you say something you have not let yourself say aloud for a long time, carefully, like you are feeling its weight again for the first time. And she says his. And in the fraction of a second that follows, both of them understand that hello, this particular hello, in this particular room, with this particular history between them, is not a greeting. It is a confession. That they are still standing. That they are still here. That despite every wall and every rebuilt routine and every morning spent convincing themselves otherwise, they are still. The crowd moves around them. The string quartet plays on. And neither one of them hears any of it. The gala balcony. Dominique has slipped away from the crowd. She stands at the railing in the warm Atlanta night, city lights spreading out below her like a map of everything she has built and everywhere she has been. Her clutch is in both hands. She is gripping it harder than she intends to. The music is muffled inside. Out here, there is only the city and the night and the thing she carries that doesn't have a name anymore. She told herself she was ready for this. She told herself that 2 years was enough time. She told herself a number of things, over a number of very disciplined mornings, in the mirror of that midtown apartment, with the photograph face down on the vanity and the coffee getting cold on the counter. She told herself, you do not need this. You never needed this. You needed yourself, rebuilt, reclaimed, restored to the woman you were before you handed over the softest parts of you to someone who did not know how to protect them. And she had believed it. She had worked for it with a kind of fierce, relentless, unglamorous labor that no one ever applauds because it happens in private, in the dark, at the bottom of long weeks when survival looked like simply getting dressed and going to work and not letting anyone see the seams. She had rebuilt herself. She had. Every appointment kept, every client won, every morning run through Piedmont Park in the gray early light. Each one was a promise she made to herself. I am not going back. I am not going back to that version of me that waited and hoped and made herself smaller to fit inside someone else's inability to commit. I am not doing that again. And standing here, right now, on this balcony, with his voice still warm in her ear from 45 seconds at a bar, just his voice, just his eyes, just the way he said her name like something he had been holding in his mouth for longer than she knows. Every single one of those promises feels suddenly, terrifyingly fragile. Not broken. She is not broken, but fragile. The way something is fragile when you realize that what you thought was healed was only resting. That the wound and the work and the choosing of yourself over the ache of him, all of it was real, and all of it is hers, and none of it, apparently, was enough to make her immune. She looks out at Atlanta. The city does not comfort her. It simply witnesses. The ballroom floor. Marcus stands at the edge of a cluster of colleagues. Developers, a city councilman, a foundation board member. His business partner, Jerome, 40, speaks beside him, pulling up something on a tablet. Marcus is nodding at the right intervals. He is absolutely not listening. His eyes drift once toward the balcony doors. He looks back. He refocuses. He is not thinking about what just happened at the bar. Marcus Ellison made his name on communication. Specifically, knowing exactly what to say, exactly when to say it, and exactly how to say it so that the room moves in the direction you require. It is, therefore, one of the more honest ironies of his life that the most consequential failures of his history have not been in what he said, but in what he didn't. He did not tell her she was the first person in a very long time who made him want to stop running the clock. He did not tell her that in the 6 months they were together, he slept better than he had in years, not because life was simpler, but because something in him had gone quiet that had been loud for as long as he could remember. He did not tell her that when they ended, in that halting, insufficient, thoroughly adult conversation that resolved nothing and hurt everything, the quiet went with her. And he has not found it since. He told himself that silence was the dignified choice. That a man of his standing does not beg, does not chase, does not reopen what has been closed. That pride and discipline are not the same thing as emotional cowardice, except that tonight, standing in this ballroom, having just heard her voice for the first time in 2 years and said nothing of worth in response, he is not entirely certain that is true. There is a particular species of regret that belongs to the man who mistook silence for strength, who confused restraint with wisdom, who let the right moment pass not because he didn't feel it, but because feeling it frightened him into stillness, and called that stillness composure. Marcus Ellison knows this species of regret intimately. He has been living with it for 2 years. Jerome is still talking. Marcus nods. He does not look at the balcony doors again. He does not look at them more than twice. The ballroom entrance. Vanessa Cole, 30, enters with the kind of presence that makes a room adjust itself slightly. She is polished in the way that suggests it is effortless, which means it is anything but. She moves to Marcus's side. A prearranged escort for the evening, a woman of standing in her own right. She takes his arm with an ease that is practiced and genuine in equal measure. Within moments, her eyes find Dominique across the room. And then they find where Marcus's eyes have just been. Vanessa Cole did not become one of Atlanta's most respected real estate attorneys by missing things. She misses nothing. It is not a boast. It is simply a fact about her, the way that certain people are built with a heightened perception, an awareness of subtext, of shift, of the particular quality of someone's attention when it is directed somewhere they are pretending it isn't. She has built an entire career on the ability to read a room. She has built her personal life on the ability to read people. And she is very, very good at both. Love, the unfinished kind, the kind that lingers in the air of a room like something that refuses to dissipate, has a texture. Vanessa can feel it. She has stood in enough rooms in her life to know what it looks like when two people are working very hard not to look at each other. And she knows what that means. And she knows what it does not mean for her. Let this be said about Vanessa Cole. She is not a villain in this story. She was never promised a story in which she was the first choice, but she was never told she wasn't, and she is owed, at minimum, the truth of what room she is standing in. She is nobody's footnote. She is nobody's placeholder. She is a woman who deserves the full, undivided presence of whoever she chooses to stand beside, and tonight, for the first time, she is beginning to wonder if presence is what she actually has. Life, it turns out, does not pause for what might have been. It fills in the spaces. It sends people who are worthy, who are beautiful, who are real, into the gaps left by the ones who got away. The complication is not that Vanessa is present. The complication is that the one who got away just walked back into the building. Vanessa smiles at something Marcus says. She keeps her eyes on the room. She sees everything. The ballroom floor. The string quartet transitions into a slow, sweeping song. Something familiar and achingly romantic. Guests begin to drift toward the dance floor. Dominique is approached by Kevin, 38, a colleague and admirer, who offers his hand with a warm, uncomplicated smile. She accepts. They move onto the floor. From across the room, from behind a conversation he is no longer inside, Marcus watches. There is nothing rational about jealousy when you have no claim. Anyone who has felt it knows this, and the knowing does absolutely nothing to diminish it. It comes anyway. It comes with its full irrational weight, its full unreasonable presence, and it plants itself in your chest like it belongs there and always has. Because perhaps, in the place beneath logic and beneath the years and beneath the decisions made with the best intentions and the worst timing, some part of you never filed the paperwork on what you felt. Never officially let it go. Never stopped, in the quietest rooms of yourself, believing that what the two of you were was something that belonged to you still. He watches her move. He watches the ease of her smile when the man says something, the way she tips her head slightly to the right when she is being politely charmed. He knows that tilt. He knows the difference between the public smile and the private one, and he watches her give the public one to someone else, and he tells himself it means nothing, that it is hers to give, that he relinquished any say in who receives it a long time ago, in a conversation that cost them both more than either of them admitted at the time. He watches her laugh. The rare laugh, brief and unguarded, at something unexpected. And something in his chest turns over like an engine that won't stay off. This is the particular agony of watching someone you love move through a world that does not know it belongs to you. The jealousy you have no right to. The longing that does not consult your rights. The knowledge that the correct thing, the mature thing, the earned thing, is to stand here and let her dance. And do it anyway, with every atom of you pulling in the opposite direction. She does not look at him. Not once. Not during the entire dance. Which tells him, more than any look could have, exactly where her mind is. A corridor just outside the main ballroom. Cream-walled, quiet, lit with warm sconces. The sound of the party filters through the closed doors like something from another life. Dominique rounds the corner heading toward the event coordination room. Marcus rounds the corner from the opposite direction. They stop, 3 feet apart. 30 seconds of privacy in a building full of 400 people. The corridor holds its breath. 30 seconds. That is what they have. 30 seconds before someone opens a door, or a phone buzzes, or the world reinserts itself between them the way the world has been doing for 2 years. 30 seconds in a quiet corridor that smells like gardenias and expensive wood polish, and the particular stillness of a space that has been borrowed from the noise. Music almost gone now, just the faintest pulse beneath the silence. 30 seconds can hold a great deal, when the people inside them have been carrying 2 years of unsaid things. 30 seconds, it turns out, is just enough time to hold all of that, not enough to unpack it, not enough to resolve it, but enough to feel the full measure of its weight. To stand in the presence of someone and understand, viscerally, completely, and without the comfortable distance of time or telephone screens or the busyness they have both weaponized, that this is not finished. She asks him something. The words are measured, professional on the surface, careful in the way she is careful, but underneath them, underneath the composure and the diplomatic distance she has constructed in approximately 3 seconds since rounding this corner. The question is not about tonight. It is not about the gala or the foundation or any of the reasonable things two former participants in an ended relationship might ask each other when they unexpectedly share a quiet corridor. The question underneath the question is, are you okay? Did you survive this too? Was it as hard for you as it was for me? Or did the discipline hold? Or did it cost you something you still haven't named? He answers what she asked. He does not yet answer what she meant. Because neither of them is ready. Because 30 seconds is not enough. And because the thing they are moving towards slowly, reluctantly, with every instinct of self-preservation screaming in opposition, is going to require more than a corridor and a stolen half-minute. It is going to require everything, and neither of them knows yet whether they have it left to give. End of the gala. The Buckhead streets outside the Hartwell Hotel. Town cars and ride shares pulling away in the warm night. Dominique settles into the back of a black car, her heels off, clutch in her lap, head turned to the window. The city streams past. Peachtree Street, the familiar lights of the skyline, the beltline glowing in the near distance. Atlanta, holding her as it always has, indifferently, completely, like it knows something she is still figuring out. Atlanta has seen this story before. That is not a criticism. It is simply the truth of what cities like this one accumulate over decades of ambition and migration and reinvention. Stories. Love stories and lost stories, and the stories that are both at once, braided together so tightly you cannot separate where one ends and the other begins. Atlanta holds all of it. The triumphs and the wreckage and the long, complicated road between them. It holds the versions of people they came here to become and the versions they became instead. It holds their choices like evidence. This city is not a backdrop. It is a participant. It is a co-conspirator in the lives of everyone who chooses to make their story here. And tonight it has done what it does best. It has put two people in the same room at the same moment, in the fullness of who they are and who they were to each other, and it has waited to see what they will do. Dominique watches the skyline pass. She thinks about the corridor. She thinks about 30 seconds and what was said and what wasn't. She thinks about the photograph on the vanity that is still face down, and she wonders, for the first time in a long time, whether face down is a decision or just a postponement. Across the city, in a car of his own, Marcus Ellison sits with his jacket folded across his lap and his phone in his hand, and a contact pulled up that he has not opened in 2 years. He does not call. He does not text. He puts the phone down on the seat beside him and looks at the city going past outside his window, the same city, the same lights, the same Atlanta bearing witness to both of them simultaneously, as it always has, as it always will. Atlanta doesn't let you hide. Not from what you want. Not from what you walked away from. Not from the version of yourself that still shows up in the corridor of a gala with 30 seconds and 2 years' worth of questions you were not prepared to ask. It does not let you hide, and it does not let you forget, and it does not close the chapter you have been refusing to finish reading. This city has seen this story before. It has seen how it begins with a name on a guest list and a champagne flute and 30 seconds of courage neither party was prepared for. And it knows, the way cities know things, what comes next. It knows that the question is never whether two people like this will find their way back to each other. Some gravitational fields are too strong to argue with. Some stories don't end just because the chapter does. The only question that has ever mattered, the one Atlanta has been waiting all evening to ask, is not whether they will find their way back to each other. It's whether they will survive it when they do. Like, subscribe to my channel for more. End of episode.